Hola.
Good morning.
Hi.
Hi, Kaveri.
Hi, so nice to see you. So nice to meet you. Hello, Fleur.
Hey, how are you?
So
Good,
nice to
good.
meet you. Well, thank you so much for letting us interview you. I
Oh, not
have
at all. This is an amazing opportunity for me too.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us in this interview. I'm so happy to introduce you to two wonderful midwives today. Kaveri Mayra, currently a midwifery nursing researcher, a PhD student in global health at the University of Southampton. Kaveri is also a member of various institutions like the White Ribbon Alliance in the UK, the Academy of Nursing Studies and Women's Empowerment Research Studies, and a member of Women in Global Health in India. I'm so excited to meet you, Kaveri.
Lovely to
Um,
meet you, Raquel. Thank you.
I also want to introduce you to Flor Francisconi. She's also a midwife with a master's in public health. She is the president of our research and leadership committee at our College of Midwives of Buenos Aires, Argentina. She is our new Latin American representative at the International Confederation of Midwives. So welcome, Flor, and thank you for joining us today. And lastly, my name is Raquel Justiniano. I am a midwife working alongside Flor Francisconi in the Research and Leadership Committee of our College of Midwives in Buenos Aires.
So thank you very much. Good morning, everyone. Thank you, Raquel, for introducing us. I have to say that Raquel is not only an excellent and very skilled midwife, but also a tireless advocate for women's rights, and she's also a very hard worker. So thank you very much. I am very happy to have the opportunity to work with her, with you, Raquel, in the committee. So, to explain a little bit our context and the interview we prepared for you today, we have recently launched a newsletter with a section called Intercultural Midwifery, where we aim to interview midwives from different parts of the world to share their experiences and passion about midwifery and women's health. So we also want to emphasize that and share, of course, with our readers, in this case, midwives from Latin American countries, what our colleagues are doing in the research field, leadership, advocacy, education, and more. So yes, we can't wait to start. Thank you very much, Kaveri. And tell us about yourself and why you decided to become a midwife.
Um, Actually, I did not decide to be a midwife.
Interesting.
Let's start there. I don't think. So I come from India, and I did my bachelor's in nursing there. And I mean, growing up, it never really was a dream to be, I would say, a nurse. And I will tell you the context in a bit, because I was also not seeing any of my friends becoming or wanting to be a nurse or a midwife. The related dreams were more in line of being a doctor. I never wanted to be a doctor too. My ambitions were in the lines of journalism, because I liked asking questions, or to be a lawyer because I like to argue with people. Or my dad was in Air Force, so I wanted to fly planes, and but none of that happened, obviously. And after I completed my schooling, there's this thing, this government release, which is an employment newspaper that used to come, and there was this tiny news section there that this College of Nursing is inviting applications to join. And I, even though had gotten admissions in other places, this was a government college, and it kind of ensured that you will get a government job after you complete. I applied, I got counseled, and I got one of the 15 seats which were available in a like huge region of India. So it was quite kind of very lucky to be amongst those very few girls who got that opportunity, and dreams kind of took that shape. And it wasn't about me being very excited about doing it or anything. But having said that, it was after joining nursing that I realized there were several aspects of my course which I really liked. I think it was more because of the amount of human contact, and you come, you get to see in all kinds of times, in their sickness, in their health, in their death, in their birth. And midwifery comes in the third year. It was a 4-year bachelor degree, and completing that gave us two kind of registrations, to be a registered nurse and a registered midwife. Now, even while we were doing uh, the degree course in nursing, there were many specialities, and I always thought that midwifery is one of the specialities of nursing, and didn't really realize that it's actually an independent profession in other parts of the world, and you can be just a midwife in
Exactly.
other countries. Exactly. So that realization happened after I had completed. It was strange to have an RN and RM, whereas I thought I was only studying nursing. But I now that I understand what midwifery is, and now that I can separate out the midwifery aspects from my training, I can confidently say that that was part of one of the favorite times of all the courses, I would say, or specialities I had within nursing that I thought was in nursing. So yeah, and then there was no reason to look back. Midwifery became the favorite thing to do. Research in midwifery, I would say. So yeah,
Wonderful.
that is how I
Wow,
got
that
it.
is an interesting story, Kaveri. um, I know I read about your work and what you're doing now. And I know you have a unique path in this career. So please tell us, what are the challenges you faced personally to achieve to where you are now?
Um, I'm somewhere midway. I can tell you where I started. I don't know where I'm headed.
Mm-hmm.
The path is unique because it was non-existent, the path I am on. I am majorly focused on research and education. And when I remember, nursing research was one of these courses that was a part of my degree. And I thoroughly enjoyed doing research. I was also one of the team leaders in one of the research studies we did as a student. So I kind of, I was curious that once you are completing your degree, I'm seeing a lot of friends wanted to be, teachers. Many of them wanted to remain in clinical practice. But I always wondered, why is no one thinking about research? Why am I not seeing, midwives and nurses focusing on research as a career opportunity? And I wasn't seeing Indian nurses and midwives' name on these, really big journals. Whereas I was seeing medical practitioners' names, and I was seeing them doing all kinds of things. They remained in the clinical area. They were teaching too. Plus, they were heading these, you know, uh, largely funded research projects. And I kind of thought that is a role that a midwife can play too. But somehow this was completely non-existent. But there is this, as you said, I am member of Academy for Nursing Studies and Women Empowerment Research Studies. In short, we call it ANSWERS. It is an NGO which is about nurses and midwives, and for nurses and midwives, and for women. And it's led by a nurse midwife. And I got a research assistantship in this grassroots organization. And for 1 year, I just traveled across India and tried to understand the reality of midwives and nurses in many, many states. I practiced and got my education in a state called West Bengal. And I always kind of found faults here and there in the education system, in the practice, in the healthcare delivery. But when I went to these other states, the condition in which students were studying,
Mm-hmm.
the condition in the kind of discrimination that they are facing, I mean, it was so hard to me to see all of that and not be affected by it. It's just so bad, and that reflected in the care they provided. There was an absolutely, quality was nothing. It was like everything you'd it was difficult to decide where to start. Should I focus on improving education, pre-service education? Should I focus on the working condition of care providers? Should I rather see what women are going through? It was just so many challenges. It was mind-boggling. But I at least got some direction that, if I am a clinician, it was, in my opinion, if I am a clinician, there can be some amount of impact that I can make in my regular life, in my regular contacts, the people I come in contact with. But I thought I can have a bigger impact if I do it via research. And
Right.
that impact I wanted to have in improving conditions of nursing and midwifery workforce, in healthcare, in how midwives and nurses are being educated, in the regulation, in all kinds of policies where, there's so much that can be changed and which is not happening because we do not have midwives and nurses in the governing level helping with the policies. And these policies are being drafted and made for us, by
Right.
people who are not part of our profession and people who do not understand our profession. And on top of that, people who do not consider us good enough to be, at a level where we can decide things about our profession. So that's why, I mean, it definitely was a struggle. I didn't know who to look up to. And now I see so many people, I meet so many people in different parts of the world that would have benefited me so much had that happened 10 years ago. But it has literally been so much trial and error, so much, losing jobs, so much discrimination within research, um, being a nurse, just being sent to the field to do, data collection, and not being felt good enough to write, to be a co-author,
Mm.
losing jobs, all kinds of things whenever I will raise my voice about, and against it. So yeah, but I feel little secure, little seen, more recognized now, where I feel like there is some kind of a role that I have carved for myself, and I'm more visible, way more visible than before. But I still feel that that discrimination is going to be something, that judgment in people's mind is going to be something that I'm going to struggle with. And all my life, whenever somebody hears that I'm a midwife or I'm a nurse, or just the fact that I'm a woman. So yeah, it's a lifelong struggle, and I'm, I think, ready for it.
Yes, I
I
think
can see that you are strong enough to go through that and have that battle. So,
yes,
um,
it's a I'm sorry, Flor. It's a reality
yeah.
that many midwives face in the rest of the world, not only in India. So we also have our struggles here that are we can relate, and definitely this is why we're doing this interview and why we're doing this newsletter to inspire midwives and get other midwives to read about these stories. That we can make an impact. And we can take. Important positions in the government and making policies that will benefit women's health and our profession.
Mm-hmm. It's an excellent initiative. I really want to get that translated and have that circulated in India. Honestly, you're doing the job already.
Thank you.
So let's keep on inspiring colleagues and tell us, where do you currently work and about your duties today?
Well, I'm a bit in too many things. I'm a workaholic. Let's start there.
So we are.
Even Raquel, she is. I can tell.
And it's work is my happy space. So I like to
Yeah.
stay involved in a few things. I like multitasking. So every time I am only part of one thing, I will have an internal freak out that what is happening, Kaveri? Why are you not doing more? But my major role is the dream that I'm living right now is my PhD. It's on obstetric violence in India. It's something that I had seen when I was getting educated as a midwife, and something that I saw was a very normal part of life. And it kind of makes you feel like, okay, I'm learning midwifery and I'm learning how to abuse women as well. If I, from people all around you, the care providers and everybody. And that is something that I had started advocating for even when I was a student. Wasn't appreciated for it. But yeah, that is something that I did a little bit of research on in my career. When I did my master's in public health, that was uh, part of my thesis too. And as as a nursing and midwifery student, I used to think that, the powerlessness that I used to feel as a student nurse midwife, because I felt I was in the bottom of the hierarchy, and even the powerlessness I used to see in nurses and midwives who are somewhere, who are established, and even who are working in the ministries. I felt it's just, a little bigger position, but it doesn't necessarily mean that you have the power to make, substantial and drastic changes. So in my mind, it was like, if I did people will listen to me if I did a PhD. Then nobody will be able to say that, your ideas don't matter or what you're trying to do is not good enough. So it's been like 13 years since I have had that dream, and I'm living that dream now in the University of Southampton. Apart from that's my full-time PhD, but apart from that, I am also consulting with an organization called Oxford Policy Management. I have been associated with them for the last 5 years. Some of the best work that I have done is with them, and some of the most wonderful people that I have had a chance to work with in my lifetime has been in this organization. Um, I also am a board member with Answers. It's where I started my career. So that is kind of completing a circle, and I continue to volunteer for Answers. I am also consulting with White Ribbon Alliance UK, and I'm soon going to uh, change roles there that I'll keep in wraps for now. I am also a member of White Ribbon Women in Global Health, the India chapter. I volunteer for them, and we are doing quite a bit of good work there. And yes, I mean, apart from that, I am an independent consultant, and I do consultancies in projects initiatives which excite me. And I have recently done some work with ICM. I have done some work with WHO in India on midwifery curriculum. Um, I also did an internship on midwifery leadership at the WHO headquarters in the end of 2018. So yeah, juggling a few things here.
Wow, you're quite busy. I know you told us a little bit about midwifery in India, but tell us how is midwifery seen in your country, and what are the challenges that midwives face there?
I wouldn't say it. Okay, let me put it in this way. The way midwifery is seen is very, it's in contrast. One side of it is very good, and one side of it is very bad. So there is no Hindi or local language, a term to call a midwife. The closest that you can get to is a dai. Dai is a word in Hindi,
Mm-hmm.
and dai is somebody who, uh, used to, or she, even now, she does assist childbirths at home in villages. And then there were policies where because dais had such great contacts, and they were so much a part of the community, they were trained for a few days by government. So they started being called the train uh, dais. But for somebody who's a professional midwife, there is no other terminology. And because there is so much context, I feel, to the word dai, when people get trained for say 4 years, or even now that India is getting an 18 months course in midwifery, um, I don't think people necessarily want to be called a dai, because then you are constantly compared with that role, which is not a trained enough role,
Mm-hmm.
right? So I think there
Yeah.
is a point of stature and status that, people feel that doesn't do justice. But yes, I mean, in general, when we say in our communities or even in families that what you do, if I say that I am a midwife, and it's very usual for somebody to say, oh, she's a dai. And it's tough to feel less, because it's more than that. There is a back-breaking, painful training that one has had been through. But in general, the professions of nursing and midwifery are considered um, you know uh, professions of girls who come from poor socioeconomic backgrounds, uh, girls who didn't do well enough to get into medicine. Um, and there are a lot of stereotypes and things that we used to hear and learn about even when we were students, that nurses and midwives don't get married, they don't get good suitors, or they have seen too much in their life.
Mm.
Those kind of stereotypes, so they are not necessarily good girls. And
Wow.
because it is a women dominated profession, often it's also considered that there is one discussion that it should be open to all. It shouldn't be just open to women, and I'm all for it. We need all kinds of people. We need even men to join, and in good forces. But when you say that we need men in midwifery or nursing to uplift the profession and to make it look and appear more serious and more worthy, that is where I have a problem, and I feel that is
Mm.
happening for like a bit. So in general, no, it's not seen in a very good light. But I mean, it's also very hypocritic, where people say that nursing and midwifery is very magnanimous profession. They are selfless, and they are doing so much. And some of it you're seeing right now, where people are clapping and people
Mm.
are banging utensils and people are all for praises. But when it comes to recognizing um, in a substantial, in a proper way, that doesn't necessarily happen in terms of money, in terms of promotion, in terms of status, in terms of how you usually look at nurses and midwives in general in your community. So it's there's kind of a dual nature, which is also why the professions suffer, and which is also why it's very difficult to bring independent professional midwifery in India. Even now, what we are doing, the 18-month course is actually for nurses who have completed their nursing diploma and degree, and even after completing that, they will be called nurse practitioner in midwifery.
Mm.
um, the direct midwifery course is something we are still rooting for, and something we are still pushing for, and we are hoping that that will happen soon. But yeah, that remains to be seen.
Wow. It's interesting of the similarities of how midwifery is portrayed in our society.
Yeah.
And we also have, a very long course. We have a 4-year training in college. And even though we have, this, we have all the information when we got prepared for that, they also, many in the society, some people relate that um, to traditional midwives, which is not bad, but we have, this education that we go through,
Yeah.
and yeah, it's interesting of the similarities and the work we have to do, to explain people and let them know, what we're capable of.
Exactly.
Educating them.
Right.
Uh, and thinking about leadership and inspiring people or colleagues, who has been or who is your role model now and why?
Do I have to take one name?
No, not necessarily.
Because I don't have one name. And this is one question I have often thought about, in different phases of life when I feel, who is my role model? Maybe this person is because of, but, but I feel I do not have one role model, and there are many people who have influenced my life and the way I work, the work, different decisions that I take. There are people who have shaped, let's say, different parts of my work. I will name a few people. I would like to start with Dr. Smriti Kanamani. She was my midwifery professor, and in times when respectful maternity care or respectful maternity education is not something that you discussed, and something that not I didn't experience, even in when I was a student, or even after, when I was examining and researching other students' experience of their education. This was one professor who kind of embodied what respectful education is. And I usually advocate about the importance of respectful education and respectful teacher student relationship in midwifery and nursing, for them to be able to address that power dynamics and the imbalances, to take it forward where they practice midwifery. Because usually our practice areas are government setups where women from very poor socioeconomic conditions come, and it's very easier to abuse women when you are in the position of power, even if you are in the lowest position in the hierarchy in the hospital. But then you immediately feel, okay, fine, when the atrocities I am going through, the discrimination I am going through, people who are bullying me, I can transfer it on to the woman who I am taking care of. So that is one woman, and I remain connected with her. She still feels very happy with everything I do. There is Prakashama, who founded Answers. As a nursing and midwifery leader, the kind of barriers in health policies and health workforce governance, that the glass ceilings that this woman has shattered, it's like nobody's business. It's just she is yeah, she's a rock star that way. But having said that, there are other people in that I have recently come in contact with. Like, some of them, there is Fran McConville, who's the technical advisor for midwifery with WHO. I have known her for like 3 years, and so inspirational, watching her work at the highest level of policy making and dealing with everybody. Just seeing that makes you realize, yeah, that's hope. I can do that. I can dream that big. There is Franca Kadi. Every time she is on stage, I mean, you just can't stop clapping. You can't hold together and not give her a standing ovation at the end of it. And she's somebody who has even influenced me in, like, small texts, and she'll make you think in 2 sentences. So she's that kind of a person. Research, there are so many women like Hannah Dallin, there is Susan Crowther, um, there is Sarah Cohen Sabat, people who are writing about midwifery, midwives who are writing about midwifery. And you see these people, Sue Down, Saraswati Vedam, you see them in journals leading papers and research studies. That gives me a lot of hope. And in the end, the younger midwives, something that I was not seeing in my generation, they are so brave, and the kind of decisions they can take, they are making these small steps where they are going against things, even in their working environment, in clinical area, in education, where they are standing up and they are asking for their rights and they are asking to make changes. It's very inspiring to see these younger nurses and midwives do that. And I wish that I had done that. And they get in touch with me and they tell me that this is something, a change they have made, which is really inspiring.
Wow, amazing. You are gathered with a lot of people who are inspiring you, and I'm sure they are giving you all the strength so you can achieve what you want. How are you working to stimulate new leaders in midwifery?
I'll start by saying I'm not doing enough. That's a constant feeling that there's more I can do and I'm not doing enough. But um, I think there are some very conscious ways that I try to do it, and that includes uh, through my articles that I write, some of which you have read, some of which has been very difficult to write because they have been sensitive. They are not, let's just say, they are not happy articles. Um, and but they connect with the nursing and midwifery students especially very much, because when somebody writes something like that at a bigger platform, somebody from their own profession and background, that gives a lot of hope, and they immediately feel connected, thinking we are not alone. And something that, you and I have
Mm-hmm.
connected with, saying, when you say things are similar here, it's not that different in India. And that is something
Mm-hmm.
I hear in many countries now, uh,
Exactly.
where they say that students do go through that, and it makes you reflect, and even makes the teachers and makes the policymakers reflect and look back to see how are we raising our students, our care providers, who are going to be, crucial for the health workforce in our future. I do a lot of speaking engagements, which has started in the last few years. I have spoken at the World Health Assembly last year, when a midwifery education guideline was being released, and um, I was represented as a young midwifery leader through ICM, and that was quite influence. It had an influence with midwives and nurses globally. Um, I got a chance to speak at another of these sessions on water, sanitation, and hygiene related issues, where I focused on how that impacts lives of nurses, midwives, and students. And I started, and I was there with the Director General of WHO, Dr. Tedros, there, who was sitting next to me, and I told him that, it's part of our midwifery and nursing, unsaid midwifery and nursing curriculum, that I can hold my bladder longer than you, because there are, I can challenge everybody in the room to do that competition with me, and I will beat any one of you. But the idea of that was to show the discrimination there is, that, there's often one great beautiful toilet and bathroom in the medical superintendent's room, which is, and us students, we have to make do with a basin which has running water, and we do go on holding our bladders throughout the shift. And we start learning that when we are students itself, which
Mm.
then we do all our lives as nurses and midwives. I go to many universities. I have spoken in Iceland, in America, in Wales, at King's College London, in many universities in India, where I have given these lectures and talks about many aspects of nursing and midwifery education that usually goes unsaid. I talk about gender discrimination a lot, and
Mm-hmm.
I talk about what that means when you are a nursing and midwifery student, and when it means when you are into the profession. And not just that, but the context of how we have grown in a particular conditioned way that makes us feel less of ourselves and ask less for ourselves, which kind of reflects in a bigger way in our professions too. um, there are there are many other things also, like I gave a talk on the Glastonbury Festival. It's a music festival which I had no idea about till I went there, but it's apparently one of the biggest music festivals in the world. And I talked about midwifery, nursing, respectful care, and orgasm equality. That is one of the major areas that I also advocate for.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so yeah, and a lot of the ways that I influence, I have heard, is not really ways that I have consciously done. I have a bit of influence on social media, and Facebook and Twitter actually are more ways to vent about what I feel. and what I observe in a particular day, in a particular country about midwifery, about midwives, the atrocities, the discrimination about women, and I write about them. And very often, younger midwives and nurses from around the world have written to me, sometimes not even openly on the post or where I have mentioned, because they didn't feel confident enough, but they have come to me and they have said that it has influenced them in a way that they have made a change. And when I do that, I'm not doing that consciously. It's just something that is in my mind, and it's just not right, and I put it out there,
Mm-hmm.
and that connects with people. So I have since then started making a conscious effort in making those better, and not just which are more like vent. And I do mentor youngsters who come in contact with me when they want to do a master's in public health, or they want to do PhD, they want help with research, they want to just know about my career pathway, and they are interested, and they think it's fancy. But when they hear about the struggles, they realize, okay, got it.
It's
Not
not
that
easy.
fancy. So yeah, I mean, there are really many ways. I don't think I can name all of them, but I'm trying to make a difference in every bit possible.
Raising your voice, it is making an impact, Kaveri. Definitely.
Like
Other,
innate, like an innate leadership. Even if you don't want to, you are doing this.
yes,
That
yes,
can go wrong actually in many ways. So I
it
mean,
is a responsibility.
it is a big responsibility, which makes me I have to keep my guard on every single time, because all the time, because I feel I'm being watched, and I do not want to. I'm not saying I do not want to make mistakes. I make several mistakes, and I want people to see that it's fine. But the point is to how I own those mistakes and what I learn from it and how I handle that.
Yes,
And
I,
all of it is a big responsibility.
it is, and it's part of the growth, of your, as a
It's
person.
good that you show yourself as a real person, as what you
Exactly,
are.
exactly. Yes.
Yeah. And tell us, Kaveri, what do you wish for midwifery to accomplish globally?
Oh, sorry. I have a big smile because, like, I'm so hopeful. Even before answering this, I'm so hopeful. Um. Okay. What do I wish midwifery to achieve globally? Well, feel, um, I feel midwifery should be a kind of a profession that is not frowned upon anywhere in the world. Anywhere in the world. Right now, that has been achieved in a few parts of the world, but I wouldn't say it's a perfect scenario anywhere. But to break it down and make it more simplistic, I would say, I don't know. I mean, you might have seen this in your countries as well. How a child often dreams to be an engineer or a doctor, and it's like the parents are exhilarated. Yay, our child is going to be a doctor or a nurse. No, not a nurse, a doctor or an engineer. I want children to, a child of whatever background, to be able to say to the parents that I want to be a midwife when I grow up, with a lot of pride. And I want the parents to not look at this with judgment and embarrassment. Instead, like, say an excited big yes, and support and encourage that child and say, absolutely, that's an amazing idea. I can't think of anything better. I think that that's a great dream to have, and let's find out how we can all help you to achieve that dream. And I feel when that becomes normalized, this discussion becomes normalized in a home environment, we are breaking a lot of stigmas and stereotypes and
Definitely.
baggage that this profession carries,
Mm.
of those heavy cultural stereotypes and stigmas. And when that will happen, there is a big change that will follow, where women will start discussing about, about having a midwife when they will get pregnant, or when they give birth, even when they're not pregnant, when it will become a normal dialogue in the discourse, to have a midwife at the home and not be judged by anybody in any way. And that is, I feel, when in terms of profession, in terms of healthcare, when we reach that, that is when we absolutely kind of demedicalize pregnancy and childbirth and all the aspects related to it, which are considered such risky business these days.
Yeah.
It's like, you got pregnant, you're going to, it's not a war. It's not like, don't look at me like I'm going to die in the process. So I just feel, that is something I would like to see for midwifery in the world, that we do see for many, many other professions.
Exactly.
I just want that for midwifery.
Wow, those are powerful words. Lastly, what is your biggest... Sorry?
We've reached the last question. I'm sorry, I didn't realize how quickly this has happened. It feels like it's happening. It's such interesting discussion. I don't want this to end.
Oh, we can have further discussions for sure. But lastly, this is our last question. What is your biggest dream you want to accomplish?
In terms of midwifery, you mean, or for myself?
You can take both.
Both.
Let's say midwifery first. So as a research midwife, the dream that I shared about midwifery globally, I want to play a role in that. No matter how small, no matter how big. I do realize for midwifery to accomplish what I just said, it's not one person's job. I feel there are so many people who are not just midwives. We need allies to join us into making that happen. And I want to be one of those persons who has, in her lifetime, made a conscious effort to make that dream of midwifery possible, not just in my country, but globally. There are, of course, many things specific that I want to do along the way. There are specific areas like respectful education, like respectful maternity care, where I want to play a major role. But to achieve that big dream, I feel I'm just one tiny human who will have to keep trying to make that happen. But I want to also get people to join this dream and make it possible in whatever small or big way, wherever they are. I'm sorry, that doesn't sound very intelligent, but I don't think it's possible for me to put into words an exact big dream. It can't be. It's just kind of a blur. It's just so many things that has to happen that I'm not aware of right now, many of which I wasn't aware 5 years ago. Most of it I wasn't aware 10 years ago. So what I want to do now will change in the next week or even next year, and I just have to keep checking the pulse of what's happening, where my voice matters the most, where I can make a difference, and I'll keep making my effort. And I just want to have the sanity to be able to continue doing that. In terms of myself, I hope to have more patience, and to be. This is a challenging path that we all are headed in. It's not just me. It's you in your country. It's even students and friends I know in America and UK and New Zealand. No matter how, if situations are better, but everybody is on their own struggle, and I just don't want to sit and call it quit at any point, which I think we all come at a point where we realize this is too hard and nobody's listening. And I'm making my voice heard, but people are not giving it the importance that they should. And it's easy to call it quits. I just don't want to be I just don't want to give in to that temptation and call it quit. And I want to keep making the efforts that I'm making, regardless of the challenges. I think
Yes.
that's the dream.
Wow.
Just the very, very, very last question.
Okay.
Where or how do you see or you imagine yourself in 5 years from now?
This is turning into like, you better give me a job after this. You have to give me a job after this. 5 years from now, I will be definitely Dr. Kaveri Mayra.
Mhm.
And that is, so I would have achieved one of my major dreams that I have had. But wherever I will be, I don't know where I will be physically or profession wise. I just know I will be still continue to make a lot of noise as I still do. I'm hoping I will be braver and more courageous in my ways, um, and I will be more respectful in the ways I deal with challenges. But yeah, I don't know physically where I will be. I will probably write quite a bit till then. I will probably be a part of more research that actually makes some difference. I would have uh, come in contact with many more midwifery and inspiring leaders and people who are working at the grassroots. And I will be a more learned person. And I hope my passion remains the same wherever I am in 5 years. But I'm not somebody who would put myself in a particular place. I will be all over the place as I am right now.
Please keep us posted. Where you are and what are you doing?
Yes, I think it's wonderful. I mean, this interview has been really wonderful and very inspiring, very strong, and um, it's important, to join forces. Midwives, we should join forces and have these dreams. Also, all of us working into becoming it a reality, within our context, social context. So thank you very much, Kaveri. I hope we can continue to keep in touch. You have reached South America.
this is so cool. Like, this is the first time I'm reaching South America. So this is a big hello to all the South American midwives and nurses and everybody there. And I was telling people how excited I am about making my first acquaintances with midwives in South America. So
Mm.
we are going to be involved in a lot of initiatives going forward. This is a
It's the
dream.
beginning.
But thank you so
So
much. This has been a
we are
pleasure.
recording this, huh?
Absolutely. Put the excitement out there.
Well, thank you again, Kaveri, and thank you to our listeners. And we hope we can get these wonderful stories coming up with other midwives around the world.
Thank you so much. All the best with everything you're doing in future. And this has been amazing. It has been a pleasure talking to both of you. Thank you very, very much.
Thank you for your powerful words.
Bye.